you all could rise for an invocation by Greg Cassidy.
Lord, we appreciate this opportunity to get together tonight, work on things that affect this city. Thank you for the people giving their time to sit in this body, and thank you for the people that care enough about this community to come in here, witness this meeting, provide input, provide guidance in some cases for us. We ask this in thy name, amen.
Amen.
Good turn, face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Clerk, would you call the roll of the council members?
Lehman.
Present.
Kodak.
Present.
Cassidy.
Here,
Baker. Hall.
Yes.
Mendoza.
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
Make a motion to excuse Councilman Baker.
second.
We have a motion by Hall, a second by Cassidy to excuse Councilperson Baker. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman.
Aye.
Kodak.
Yes.
Cassidy.
Yes,
Hall.
Yes.
Mendoza.
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
All right, Councilperson Baker is excused. Minutes of the previous meeting. Have any corrections? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes by Mendoza, a second by Lake. Clerk, would you call the roll?
Lehman.
Abstain.
Kodak.
Yes.
Cassidy.
yes,
Hall.
Yes.
Mendoza.
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
The minutes have been approved. Go into communications. Do you have any?
No, I do not, Mr. President.
No communications. Report of the committees, Finance Committee.
Finance Committee met on February 13th for a work session. The Finance Director reported that January would be balanced on January 14th, and the financial reports would go out immediately following. There were to be two finance-related council items, both needing emergency passage. One is a $44,000 appropriation modification resolution, and then and now authorization related to the same item. Both of these items relate to a software agreement that was entered into before Mr. Dandrian began. The agreement prescribed that a portion would be paid up front and the balance paid upon the software being up and functional. The first installment was made, the PO was closed, and therefore there was no purchase order in place. The funds had not been budgeted because he was unaware of it. So we now have a bill that needs paid, and that will require the then and now authorization by council, and then the appropriation modification because it also wasn't budgeted. We were under the impression that was going to be here tonight, but I guess the Auditor of State's office did not get that paperwork done, so I guess we would expect that to be at the next meeting, but a little heads up for you there. Ryan Nelson from Red Tree Investments was at the meeting, and he provided the committee with a financial review of their investment funds. There were some educational components in that report, but the biggest focus was on an overview of the city's funds. We have $17 million that invested. 30% are held with Red Tree, and the other 70% are held in other financial institutes, which would be Star Ohio and Premier Bank. He indicated that a more realistic model would be maybe a 40-60 balance and keeping 40% at Red Tree. But since interest rates are high right now, the ratio that we're doing right now is working for the city. Mr. Podak suggested that we should begin thinking about maybe moving to that 40-60 ratio because we expect to see interest rates start to drop in 2024 as the Fed is expecting to announce a reduction in interest rates. So that's something that Mr. Nelson and Mr. Dandrian are going to be talking about into the future, about maybe making that move. Other items, the mayor indicated there would be a resolution coming to council to authorize supplemental income I'm sure he's going to speak about that during his portion. It is on tonight's agenda. And then the Safety Service Director and the Finance Director both updated us that they were working on some job description updates and proactively seeking to post and fill positions for upcoming retirements. Any additions from my fellow council?
In your meeting next.
Thank you. Our next meeting will be, thank you,
20th or the 19th? We got a leap year, so.
19th at 5:30.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Make sure I've got it on my calendar. I do.
Public Affairs Committee.
There are a couple of events happening in town this weekend. The Greater Fostoria Community Foundation is hosting a country jam this Friday, February 23rd at Stacy's Place from 6 to 11. There will be heavy hors d'oeuvres, or horse d'oeuvres rather, a horse race auction, and the live band Sugar Creek will be performing. Individual tickets can be purchased by contacting the Greater Fostoria Community Foundation. Also, UAW Loco 2021 Civil and Human Rights Committee is hosting their second annual free movie night in celebration of Black History Month this Saturday, February 24th at the Union Hall on North Union Street. This free event is open to the public of all ages. Free popcorn will be available for guests who are encouraged to bring their own non-alcoholic beverages and other snacks as well. The movie Selma is rated PG-13 and will begin playing at 7 p.m. There are no scheduled Public Affairs Committee meetings at this time. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Law and Ordinance Committee.
So the Law and Ordinance Committee met today at 5:15. There was no old business. We assigned roles and discussed a list that was given to us from the street department, including several streets to consider one-side parking for, one street to change to no parking, and 2 streets that need stop signs. A couple members of the public spoke. Deb Tyson reported she was glad to hear we are considering the one-side parking and her concerns about ensuring that the road remain open in front of the scrapyard on Spruce Street. Brian Shaver brought concerns from the public proposing required, clearly marked numerical addresses, and Jill Filiator inquired about whether or not the Parks and Recs Board will be reestablished. The Law and Ordinance Committee will meet again on Tuesday, March 19th at 5:15 p.m. here in Council Chambers.
Thank you. Report of the officers. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We began work this week on cutting reservoirs 1 and 4 from our water supply to the city. We will temporarily cut off reservoirs 5 and 6 while this work is being done. We will be drawing our water from reservoirs 2 and 3 during this period. We will then reconnect reservoirs 5 and 6, which will be our primary water source going forward, with the reservoirs 2 and 3 being primarily recreational, but also backup water sources. Reservoir 1 will become recreational for fishing. We will then begin work on converting Reservoir 4 into a wetlands recreation area. We will concentrate on the 12 acres nearest the Portage River and construct a number of deep water ponds with a stream meandering between them, such that in a heavy rain event or a flooding, the water will be diverted into this area. Ultimately, it should have walking trails and be perfect for bird watching and other recreational activities. Secondly, on the agenda tonight, the landlord-tenant resolution is mislabeled. It has last year's title, registration. That is incorrect. It should be landlord-tenant rights. And thirdly, we're asking for passage of the supplemental income because that was promised by the previous safety service director and is expected. It's paid out quarterly, so we can have 3 readings on that and still get it done on a timely basis.
You can or cannot have.
We can do 3 readings and do it.
Thank you. Director of Public Service and Safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. So last year, Great Lakes Concrete has started that project at the cemetery to repair that arch that has been there since the early 1900s, and took a break for the cold weather, and they returned again this week, I think on Monday, to finish that project. And so that'll be huge improvement to the gate there at the Fountain Cemetery, and also ensure that original gate to the cemetery will last for hopefully another 100 and some years. Demolition of the pool and bathhouse is scheduled to still happen this month, and so keep you apprised on that once we have a date that's completely set. Amber Mangert, who is our foreperson at the Water and Sewer Maintenance Departments, had reported to us they've had roughly, I think it's up to 8 main breaks this year. Kind of all came out of nowhere. So we're contracting with a company called OTCO, and they will come into the community and they will check every water line in the city for minor leaks before they turn into major water main breaks at a cost of about $14,000. They'll check every water line, and that's how we're able to find that line down on Poplar Street. That was an issue that's been leaking for a little bit, and that's scheduled to happen sometime this spring, so we can fix those minor water leaks before they turn into major water breaks. We should be going out for bids for the Buckley Street tennis courts, turning into pickleball courts, sometime maybe late this month, early in March. So that is a project that turns those 3 tennis courts into 4 pickleball courts and 1 tennis court, and expands that area down there, moving the fence for more room for the pickleball players. And then I did make a mistake that those two of the job description we talked about were finished just today.
Oh,
and so those 2 job descriptions are going out to all the different departments for any in-house people that might be able to fill those. One being the mechanic that will help to service the police vehicles and fire vehicles, and saving some of our money on repairs by doing it in-house. And the other one is for replacement, or at least someone who worked as an apprentice with our current electrician, as he plans to retire in September. So I believe that is most of my report, unless you have any questions. Thank you.
Director of Law.
Thank you. As the mayor mentioned, I had mislabeled the ordinance regarding the landlord and tenant rights. So if we could just get a motion to amend that, please, and I'll get that fixed for our second reading at our next meeting. And that's all I have, unless there's questions.
This time we'll move into the public portion of the meeting. We have 3 people who have requested time to speak, so we'll go with them first. After that, we'll ask anybody else that wishes to speak to council to come forward. We do ask that you put your name and address on the paper so we get it right for the record. And I also have an additional request to make sure you talk over the microphone or at the microphone so we can hear it, so all of the people watching in the future on YouTube starting tomorrow can hear your comments as well, so that it doesn't become a what did they say type of moment. So the first person I have up is Deb Tyson.
Okay, Deb Tyson, 800 Woodward Avenue. I've already signed in. I want to thank everybody that emailed me back, because I was checking out the website and most of the emails work. We still have some that don't. And also, I want to thank you all for the hard work that you do. You've addressed all my concerns. My only question is to Councilperson Mendoza. That thing at Stacy's place, how much is it, and exactly how do you go about finding them to pay?
The individual tickets are $50 a piece. There might be group rates I'm unsure of, and I would refer you to the Greater Foundation,
The Greater Fostoria Community
Thank
Foundation.
you. I would just refer
Michelle.
you to them.
So is that somewhere downtown or what?
The Learning Center.
I
Thank
can
you.
get you a phone number and an email. That
Okay.
helps as well.
I do want to invite everybody that is present tonight. Rachel Harmon, her husband serves on the Washington Zoning Board, and they are having a zoning appeals meeting on February 27th, a Tuesday, at 7 p.m. at the Washington Township Firehouse in Arcadia. That's at 106 Gibson Street. And it says that, that they did deny it. We went to 2 meetings there. It took them 2 meetings to get totally through because they they go through all their information. And it says that there's going to be a pre-meeting at 6:45, but we are invited at the 7 o'clock meeting. Everybody is. And that is where we will get to let them know how we feel. And it says that. I'm reading it right now. So we do get to speak, it looks like. Because I know that when I was there, if you had spoke the first time, you're not allowed to speak. But because I had something in my hand, prosecuting attorney said the rules were that you had to be able to speak. And so therefore I got to speak a second time. Because that was the only way they could enter the evidence that I had. And that's basically all. And I thank you.
Thank you. Renee Vogelsong?
Renee Vogelsong, 702 East High Street. First off, thank you all for listening to what I said before about getting ahead of the game and posting something out. It was great to have that stuff out. We didn't get a lot of backlash. It was super great. Thank you all. I think it was last spring I had brought up about garage sale signs and different signs being put out, and even political signs. Now we're going to be having those coming up, and they're putting them on street signs. They're going to be putting them on the poles again, like they did last year. Matter of fact, there's a couple of garage sales going on pretty much constantly right now that is doing this right on the street signs. Is there a way we can clean that up? Y'all want the city cleaned up. You got signs just all over the place, different types of signs just hanging and blowing. They're still there 2-3 weeks after a sale's done, or maybe you can look into making some kind of ordinance. I know when I had mentioned about having a charge, that didn't go over too good. but a minimal charge, a $5 charge. They can pay online or something to get a permit, and get them emailed to them or whatever. That way they'll know where it's at, when it's going to be, where the signs. They'll know what kind of regulations has to be for the signs to go up and around. If they can relook at that, it'd be good. The trash deal. We've had a few different trash companies try to come in. I took your advice and talked to Steve. He was giving me a little bit of information too. A couple of them is looking at one of them's doing it in a pickup. I told him you might want to contact zoning. Just want to go around the pickup sides, pick up trash. That don't sound too good to me, especially since it is in the ordinance that it's got to be enclosed and it's got to be a sealed trailer or a sealed truck. Another one's a trailer. They're wanting to use a trailer coming around. I don't know whether you guys want to throw something out there, let people know, hey, you got to be permitted, and you got to, you can't just come into town. I know we got another one coming in that's out of Michigan that's coming down here now. They're already asking for people. So how many trash companies are we going to need? I'm not a mathematician, but if you only got an area so big and you start filling it up with different trash haulers, somebody ain't making no money. That means the other one's going to go out of business again. How many's going to be here for 3 months, 6 months, right back out like we had with the bin? They was here a short time, took a lot of business away from the ones that was already established here. Is there something they can put in there? Can you look at that? And, hey, we got to limit 6 units or 6 different companies in at a time. Or, I mean, you got to stop it somewheres. We can't have 10 different trash companies in here. So, the other thing is the rental ordinance. I'm glad you brought up the name change because I was going to question that. That was one of my things on the Thunder there. And the other thing was I was going to question about why so much is copied over from the Ohio Revised Code, and I was given some real good information why. I understand that now. But there's a lot of parts, or not a lot, but there's a few parts in here that it shouldn't be for rentals. It should be for everybody. It should be city-wide. The trash or garbage bins in front or on the porch, that shouldn't be for just the rentals. That should be in for everybody in the city. I earlier left everybody view 17 pictures. That's 16 different properties. I know each one of those properties. Not one of them's a rental property. Not one is a rental property. Every one of those properties y'all seen has the owner living in them. So it's not, you think just all slumlords and that. It's not. It's a lot of people that just don't care. A couple of the properties was bought at auction, tax auction, gotten cheap. One of them was a condemned property. You seen the pool. That was a condemned property. They bought that dirt cheap. They're living in it. It should still be condemned, but it ain't. But they own it. They own it free and clear. So they don't care. That's the problem. This stuff should be somehow reverted off here and say you got to follow the city ordinance on the trash. Not that you got to do this or that on the trash, So, I don't know. I guess if they could relook at this somewheres, everything's pretty good. I mean, it helps out both the renters and the property owners. And myself as a renter for 13 years now here. Of course, I was just told tonight that I'm probably one of a kind on it, but my landlord don't bother us because we got something that goes wrong. We fix it. We live there. We take care of the property. And Eric knows my landlord. And, he's happy to have that. Like he said, he'd never rent it to anybody else because he's had some bad things in the past and he ain't going to do it. But so I'm all for both sides. I'm not for one side or the other. But you also got to look at the ones that do own the properties and they're still making it look pretty trashy. So, other thing is, I seen online, I had talked to one of the county commissioners at Stacy's and about the dog warden part and not having enough and not being able to get a deputy in that. He said he was going to look into with the other ones, see what they can't do about finding a way to put a little bit more in there to raise for a deputy more, and I seen they got another ad out, so hopefully they can get another deputy and somebody to help cover the 552 square miles that needs to be covered here in our counties. So there we go. Y'all have a good one. Thank you.
Thanks, Renee. Joe Affiliator?
Good evening. My name is Jill Affiliator, 402 West Culbertson Street. I just have 2 items that I wish to discuss today. The first one is in regards to the memo that came out regarding the reservoir and the changes that were going on in the reservoir, which is wonderful. I'm glad that you guys shared with them. I do have a couple questions because as we are being as transparent as possible, I did reach out to find out if this is something to do with the 2005 federal decree that we're still under. And I found out that yes, indeed it is. I do respectfully request that we become a little more transparent on this issue, because a lot of people weren't here in 2005 when this took place, when we got the huge amount of fine and changes that have to be done. Now, my understanding is we have until 2029 now to get the things corrected, and part of this project is directly related to that. I do know in the spring last year, they announced that we were fined for failure to do our paperwork, $216,000, which was reduced down to $2,000, solely because we didn't do it and we said we had no legal representation in regards to it. So we got a pass. And there was a documentation that the city received saying that if it happens again, full on issues. If people want to see it, is a public record, the decree for 2005 and what needs to be done. And a lot of people in the city of Fostoria don't remember this process, doesn't understand that that is part of the reason that now that we have funds, the EPA and all that, still, we got to get out of this issue with the water process before we'll see any positive outcome. And a lot of people in Fostoria don't remember that because it was they were young, they didn't know about it, and it's not to the forefront. So I'm hopeful that as part of this process, because when the memo came out, a lot of people were saying, well, what, they're shutting down this one and that one? And, oh, we're getting wetlands. Why? And I think the wetlands are a direct result of things that we have to do to meet the requirements for our plan that we had for our long term. But the mayor and the safety service director can give information on that one because they both have that knowledge base. But I do wish that we would have a little bit more transparency for the citizens. The other one I have is, again, talking about the wind waste. I was unable to attend the February meeting, but I did put my question in. And then when I was driving back, I stopped at the roadside rest to ask, did you get my comments? The gentleman that was gathering them, I talked to him. He goes, oh, I'm just the gatherer of the information, and I get to pass it along to somebody else. He was unable to locate my items. He says, I'm sure they're there somewhere. I did ask if we would ever get a response from him, and, you know, he won't be responding, but hopefully somebody will respond. That being said, I do have a concern with the fact that my question was, and I'm freely going to share it, was this all just to show that you were present, the EPA? Because based on the reads and the fact that the federal government has approved the transmission, changing it to transportation fuel, they're given the blessing. I do not foresee that all the energy that we're getting done is going to cause it not to happen. I think that the federal government has already put the stamp on it. I feel that the Ohio EPA is going to be forced to try to do more for this, but at the same time, they've done it before. 2019, they took the fines. They had the funds to deal with the fines. And the Ohio EPA, they got money for it. The state of Ohio got money for it, and the city of Fostoria, not the city, but the group, got money for it. But that didn't solve the problem. The problem's still there. They have very deep pockets. I think that I totally appreciate us doing and trying to stall it by having us do the study, but we've got to come to the conclusion that our little voices are not going to be heard as well as we were hoping that they were going to be heard based on the reads and the things that I've seen and the things I've seen in 2019. Now, I could be totally wrong. That is just my opinion. But based on the reads and everything I've looked at, I foresee that they're still going to try to go forward with it. We're going to try to delay it. But we need to probably focus on the fact that we know we can't do much because we are not in that county that it has. But we can sure try to make sure that somehow we have better oversight of the process, be it with the Ohio EPA or forcing the Ohio EPA to have outside neutral parties that inspect so that we can make sure our stuff gets done. And I'm hopeful that the council will look at that and see what they can possibly do. I know it's out of their jurisdiction, but whatever can be done, I would appreciate it. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Jill. All right, at this time, if anyone would like to address the public. Mr. Allison.
Paul Allison, 118 and a half West Center Street, apartment 2. Fostoria, Ohio. Couple things. We had our records.
Paul, you need to go
Oh,
over
you
the
want me
mic.
to speak into the microphone? I was the one that spent all the time saying we should get a better, and then I didn't even speak in it. So I apologize to everybody. Up there, here, back there. Okay, a couple of things. We had our BZA meeting on the 13th, and Councilperson Baker took the position or the place that Councilperson, or now Mayor Manel did, and he participated in the meeting, and everything went fine in our one case. Secondly, I would say regarding the library, if you haven't been to the library for quite some time, I know Mayor Manel is often at the library, and of course, Councilperson Hall is a member of the board. You ought to stop by and look at our makerspace on level 4 and our story walk around the building. If you haven't seen that, there's a new story walk based upon we have a second one already there. So lots of things have been done at the library that you might want to take a look at it if you haven't been in there for some time. We are a municipal library, which means council does appoint the members of the board. So you might want to take a look at it. Thirdly, my concern here is with the resolution, the first resolution here declaring the digital audio video recording to be the official minutes of the council of the city of Fostoria meetings. I have some concerns about that. I haven't seen a copy of what it actually says, and I didn't get one for some reason, and I was gone all day today. My email was at the library, and I was gone all day today with medical appointments. I haven't seen it, but you got to understand that minutes are permanent. So are ordinances. Who's going to keep these? Where are they going to be stored? All sorts of things like that need. Maybe they're all in the ordinance, but I haven't seen it. And so I have some concerns about that. I have a suggestion, basically, is that maybe you might want to consider tabling it and referring it to the Law and Ordinance Committee to look into the matter a little further. When I heard about this last council meeting, I think I expressed some concerns to a couple people, including the clerk, regarding this, and I have concerns regarding it. Minutes are what they say. They're minutes. They're summaries. They don't include everything. And this title sounds like you're going to include everything. Those are not minutes, in my opinion. Now, so I have some concerns about that, and maybe, as I said, if I had read the resolution, my concerns would have been alleviated. But for some reason, it didn't show up on my email, and I was gone today. And of course, the library was closed on Monday. It was President's Day, so I think it needs a little bit more looking into, rather than doing something like this. I have no problem with the council proceedings being recorded, both digitally and audio or whatever you do with it. But frankly, I have a lot of concerns regarding saying that these are minutes. Now, you want minutes to be available to everybody from the public in a reasonable manner, and people, myself included, are not going to be looking at the audio and burning off copies. I think it needs to be looked into more. Now, as I said, if you want to pass a resolution saying that council proceedings should be recorded, both audio and video, that's fine. I have no problem with that. It's a great idea. But the title, again, like the title on the landlord-tenant thing, causes me concern. And I'd like to have time to look at the resolution as a member of the Records Commission and the working member of the Records Commission. The Records Commission met, and all of a sudden, not only did we have one disposal, we had let's see, 1, 2, 3, we had 4 others all of a sudden showed up at our meeting, And so we had a lot of things to be disposed of. They were all approved, including the prosecutor's records from the law department. But boy, all of a sudden, it became a lot more work than I thought I was going to have to do. And it's all to the good. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate that, but I'm not quite as young or in as good a health as I have been or are or was. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
I'm sorry. It's all right.
Thank you.
Trying to keep a written record.
Okay, you can't shred that one for 7 years.
All right, Corey Sadam, 312 College Ave. I spoke 2 weeks ago about the landlord stuff. I appreciate that already being looked at and moving on with that. And I just want to say thank you for listening to the public on that. Also, shout out to the zoning guys, Jeff and Danielle. They came out pretty quick. It's a drastic difference to what it was the past few years communicating with zoning and getting someone out just to look at the lots there behind me. They were out same day, took pictures, and handled it extremely professionally. So shout out to them. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Corey.
Joy Walters, 482 Hoover Drive. I just wanted to address the registration of rental property as well, and I'm glad to hear that that's being changed. Spent a lot of time fuming over that one, so thank you. But I did have questions in regards to the actual writing of the ordinance, just a couple. In reading through this and trying to understand it, referring back to the actual Ohio Revised Code, I will just use item B, which is tenant obligations, and it's Ohio Revised Code 5321.05. In reading through this, we get clear down to line item number 9, and it would actually be, in reading the Ohio Revised Code, if I'm reading it verbatim, then the paragraph underneath line 9 starts with the letter B, starts with the tenant shall not unreasonably withhold consent for the landlord. The paragraph reading underneath that one is C1. If the tenant violates any provision of this section other than division A9. My confusion came in referring back to the Ohio Revised Code 5321.05. It lists it as division A9. So I was told that A11 is correct, but in reading the actual Ohio Revised Code, it lists it as A9.
I think you're reading an earlier version because it does say A11 now.
It does? Well, I went on to the state website, the Ohio Revised Code, the state of Ohio, and was reading it from there. So I don't know what version I had. I assumed it was the latest version. That was my question. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear on that because it wasn't reading verbatim for me in reading the Ohio Revised Code. And there were several sections that I listed or that I highlighted. So I guess that's something I can sit down with Stephanie about and just so that I have more clarity on that too. Other than that, those were the main items that I had and questions that I had. It does say on the underneath definitions shall be used in the Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 5321, or in a commonly accepted legal dictionary. What is that?
Black's Law Dictionary.
Okay. that is it. And I do want to say that I second Paul Allison's concern on the digital audio video recording to be the official minutes of the city council meetings. There needs to be, it's like anything, you want to back up and have a hard copy. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Joy. Anyone else this evening?
Hi, I'm Serena Reese, East High Street. First of all, I want to just thank you guys for the updates that are being done and the work towards transparency. I really appreciate that. We need more of that. Then I will third Mr. Allison's sentiments regarding the meeting minutes. I think we do also, I do appreciate them being on, it being on video, but we do need the paper minutes as well. And then regarding any ordinances or resolutions that you guys are looking at, how does the public get access to those before you guys vote on them? Because like you guys say, you know, landlord-tenant rights is this ordinance. Well, what is that? I have no idea. So how does the public get access to that information?
Also, I send them to the admin that was supposed to be posting them on the website.
I think we're still not quite all the way there with the website yet, but pretty close.
So they will be on the website then?
That's the intention.
Okay,
All the
awesome.
information that Stephanie sends out, that as soon as we get for Maddie to put it on the website. That's the plan, once the website is completely.
Okay, so then it will be like where we find the
Under the council tab.
Aren't we posting them on the website?
I think it's under the council tab, I think it might say meeting minutes, but there's a list there, not what, that's everything that's been voted through, not anything that is being discussed or on the agenda.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking, you know, because we need to know what you guys are voting on, and we have no idea what it is before, you know, or even if it could be read on the first reading here at the meeting, something, but the public needs to know what these ordinances and things are, so.
That's what, I think that's part of the intention of the new website is, as soon as they come out, they'll go to Maddie and she'll put everything on there.
Okay, so how can I get access to this landlord-tenant rights ordinance now, before it's voted?
Not the right title for it. Or you're right. It is
Landlord-tenant, right.
Landlord-tenant rights.
Yeah, that's what you said was corrected too.
Rena, I have an extra copy I'll give you.
Thank you. That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wait. No, I have, yeah,
Signs.
yeah, I have signs for the landfill. I'll have them in my car directly out the door, the police department door. Cost of those is $4 and some change, so if you want to throw in some extra besides the $4, that would help the person that paid for them. So if anybody wants them, it'll be after the meeting.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we will move into business. Before we get into business, would someone like to make a motion to reflect the change to the registration of rental property to landlord-tenant rights? We got a motion by Cassidy,
Second.
second by Lehman, to make that verbiage or word change on that ordinance. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Kodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes,
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
That does pass. It'll be entitled landlord-tenant rights. And now we'll move into old business.
A resolution authorizing the disposal of personal property, motor vehicles, road machinery, equipment, tools, or supplies which are not needed for public use or are obsolete or unfit to be sold by internet auction in calendar year 2024 and declaring an emergency to exist.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion by Cassidy to adopt, and a second by Lake. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Kodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
That becomes resolution number 2024-08. The next one.
An ordinance to amend section 1106.01150 of the codified ordinances of the city of Fostoria, Ohio concerning the duties of the zoning inspector.
Was the second reading of that ordinance. Next.
An ordinance to amend section 1305.0116 of the codified ordinances of the city of Fostoria, Ohio concerning the definition of junk.
This is the second reading of that ordinance. Into the last piece of old business.
An ordinance to approve the municipal job creation tax credit agreement between the city of Fostoria, Ohio and National Spinning Company, Inc.
That was the second reading of that one. Move into new business.
A resolution declaring the digital audio video recording to be the official minutes of the council of the city of Fostoria's meetings.
That is the first reading of that ordinance.
An ordinance authorizing supervisory personnel of the city of Fostoria, Ohio to receive supplemental income for obtaining specific class clarification as specified and required by the Ohio EPA to operate a municipal water treatment and/or wastewater treatment plant, repealing ordinance number 2008-112.
That is the first reading of that.
An ordinance to amend the schedule of fees for all applications for certificates, permits, appeals, variances, amendments, and other matters pertaining to the administration and enforcement of the city's zoning code.
That is the first reading of that ordinance. Next.
An ordinance enacting new chapter 1357 of the codified ordinances of the city of Fostoria, Ohio, entitled Registration of Rental Property.
Oh.
Nope. Sorry about that. Entitled Landlord Tenant Rights. Thank you.
That is the first reading of that ordinance.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder for the 2024 street resurfacing program, including pavement removal, surface planning, tack coat, and surface course of certain streets in the city of Fostoria, Ohio, and according to specifications to be on file in the office of said mayor and declaring an emergency to exist.
That is the first reading of that one. Is there any need to go into executive session? Seeing none, is there any miscellaneous business this evening? I'll start. There was a lot of members of the public that brought up some valid concerns about ordinances and resolutions. I don't often do a good job asking if there's discussion, but I will try to be intentional at the next meeting to intentionally ask after every ordinance if there's any discussion, because I think there's probably some valid discussion that needs to be had with a couple of the ordinances, the landlord tenant rights and the audio-visual recording. We probably should be having those discussions before we pass them and then have to pass another ordinance to correct anything we decide to do later. So I just wanted to let you know I'll intentionally ask for discussion, but I also want to let you, as council members, know that it's implied after we've had the reading. If you want to say anything, please jump in and you can ask at that point. So just as a protocol thing, I don't always intentionally ask for discussion, but I will at the next meeting just to make sure we have an opportunity to have those. That's all my miscellaneous, yes.
It'll still be written minutes. Correct.
My understanding is that there would be a digital transcription of the meeting, which would be a written of the audio. I know Mr. Allison reflected that that's not the intention of the word minutes, which is a summary of a meeting. This would be a actual transcription of every word that was said. That my understanding would be available. So that's probably one of those discussions that we should have is, do we want a summary of the minutes, or do we want, as this body? So it likely would be an AI-based transcription as long as we're getting a quality transcription. I believe that would be backed up on our own system to have the transcriptions at least available through. Most of our minutes are kept digitally now anyhow. They're just available through our cloud software that they get printed if necessary. So definitely some discussion needs to be had on those. So we're representing the best interests of the citizens and the city. So any other miscellaneous?
Do we have any meetings for the next council meeting?
No, not at the next one.
Would you guys be able to come early prior to the meeting?
For
They can go on the city's website. Is that okay with you guys?
that'd be,
That'd be like how early? 5:30. It could probably take 2 minutes per.
I can't hear what you're saying.
he's asking if we could have the council members come early before the next meeting just to get our photographs to be taken. Oh, you're fine. That's perfectly valid.
I couldn't hear it,
Yeah.
and everybody said for us from the public to speak into the microphones. That also applies to council, and the members of the administration should speak into the microphones. We got them there. You should speak into them.
Thank you, Mr. Allison. But we're going to come early to get our mug shots taken.
Point taken, Mr. Allison.
Any other miscellaneous? I will entertain a motion to adjourn then.
Move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Lake, second by Podak to adjourn. Because I haven't done the research yet, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Kodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
We are adjourned at 6:52.